everybody, this is BJ here, one half of the Pickled Pear, and it's P-A-I-R. There are two of us, and so we're the Pickled Pear. We are Debbie's Design Diary DIY paint retailers here in central Indiana. We have a retail space in Noblesville, Indiana, which is just north of Indianapolis, in the Logan Village Mall. And today I'm going to show you how to do something like this. Now I know this is not going to be to everybody's liking. This is super weird to some of you, but we really enjoy a lot of texture just because the veneer is in really poor condition and it's really super thin. It's bubbled up in places. So it's all glued down and it's all fine. The veneer's not going anywhere, but it does have some bubbling. So the surface of this is textured to start with, which is why I'm going to do a super textured paint job on it, because this already has texture. This is what we're going to do. I'm using a chip brush, just a cheapo 2-inch chip brush for this. I'm going to be using Farm Fresh and some Apothecary. I think those are the two colors. I might throw a little mint chip in there, I'm not sure, but I think those are the two colors I'm going to start with. The key to doing something like this is to have thick paint, okay? Not meaning the paint itself has to be thick, meaning the way you're going to apply it. So I've done this with several different paint lines, chalk-based paints, clay-based paints, other paints. It's all in the application. So the chip brush, the janky chip brush, is really going to work great for this. You could take some of this out, take some of the paint out, put it in a bowl and let it sit out for a while, and get a little bit hard, starting to dry out. You could stick it in the fridge. I have done that before. We're just going to use it straight out of the can. So when we're applying it, you want to get a lot of paint on your brush, and this is what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to do brush strokes too, just so I can get it covered, but I'm also going to glop it on. Like I'm glopping, okay? It's the proper term is glopping. You want to glop paint on there to the point where you are uncomfortable with it, okay? And you could, if you really wanted to, you could lay a base coat down first of your color and then glop paint on top. I'm not going to. I'm just going to go straight at it. And you can kind of see how I've got some texture built in there. Probably a random brush bristle too. And the key is just to make sure that it's going on thick, okay? Random strokes. You don't need to go with the grain of the wood. You don't, you just want to do random. You could do some stippling like this. I don't want to be neat about it. And I don't want to, as tempting as it is, it's super tempting to want to go back and like brush through where it's super thick like that, but that's what we want, because in order for us to get that great texture, that's what we're going to have. I think there was even some hot glue or something on the table over here, and I just left it. I did not bother to scrape it off because just adds to my texture. So this is a great technique to do when you have a piece that has some issues, and instead of, so I'm lazy, right? I don't want to, what I like to say is path of least resistance. I like to do as little prep work as possible. So instead of, I don't want this to sound bad. Yes, I'm doing proper repairs on my furniture. I don't want you guys to think that I'm not repairing furniture that needs it. But for cosmetic repairs, I don't always like to do those. It depends on, if it's custom piece, yes, obviously I'm going to do cosmetic repairs if that's what the person wants. But if I've got a piece that has some cosmetic issues that go beyond just being able to cover with paint, that require like wood filler or sanding out, and I don't really want to take the time to do it, this technique is great for disguising a whole lot of those issues. I'm literally slapping. Can you see that? I'm slapping that brush. Just slapping that brush. Go back and forth with it. I'm going to add more paint on there. All right. I think I'm going to add some, here's what I'm going to do. Watch this. Oh, look at that. Let's add some of that on there. This is the Apothecary. So I've got some of the Farm Fresh, and now I've got Apothecary that I'm going to mix in there a little bit. Don't really know. Oh, that's a little crusty. A little paint crusty. Just wiped it on my pants. A little paint crusty. I guess you could leave those in there. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit more of the Apothecary color on there. Okay. And then we're going to let it dry for just a little bit. And the key is to let it dry for just a little bit so that we can pull on it. As the paint starts to dry and starts to thicken up, we'll be able to actually go back and create some texture with it. I'll probably use like a paint scraper and maybe scrape some of the paint back up and lay it back down. With a clay-based paint like DIY, the heavy clay concentration in it makes it so that when this is thick and as it's drying, we can almost like we can mold with it. So as it's drying, we'll scoop it, pull it back, scoop it, smush it back, and we're going to be creating lots of layers and lots of texture with that. I'm also going to take a hairdryer to it, and that will hopefully give us some crackles. Okay, I've been drying for only just a few minutes. I went ahead and got something else painted while I'm waiting. Paint's still drying. I'm going to speed things along with a hairdryer. So I've got this janky old hairdryer, which obviously I have used to dry paint before, and I'm going to hit it with a hairdryer a little bit. Okay, since I can't find my my little metal paint scraper, I'm going to use this instead. This is it's called a color shaper. It's just a rubber. It's a rubber tip. It should work fine, but you can kind of see what I'm kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm pulling up on paint that is drying, just pulling on that, and I'm creating texture. It's probably not dry enough. It's not dry enough just yet, but it's okay. I'm just creating more texture with it anyway. It's okay. See how I pulled all that off? I'm just going to go back, and it's like I'm troweling that paint on to cover all that back up. You can really, I don't know if you can see it back here, kind of where I was drying that up. I'm really starting to get some good texture going as I'm pulling over it. That right there is kind of really what I'm after. So I'm just going to keep doing the same thing. I'm hitting this with the hair dryer, so I'm drying that paint, and then I'm using my color shaper to just keep pulling paint. So I'm basically pulling paint that's drying over across paint that's still wet, and I'm just going to keep doing this over and over until I get the texture that I want. So I don't know if you can see what I was doing there. As that paint starts to get thicker, I can kind of really scrape it and pull it. Let's see if I can get to a good area. Like it's starting to get a little, see how it gets thicker? And then I can just smoosh it back down, and then creating some more texture. And it's okay that I got little pieces and chunks, that's all right. That is perfectly okay. And any of these areas that I was playing with, like over here where I'm actually, now I'm kind of light on paint over here, I'm just going to go back with my, yeah, move you a little closer. I will go back with my, hold on, a little bit more of the Farm Fresh, and I can just add that, or the Apothecary, or both, and I can just add that into those places that I scooped up a little too much paint and it was a little light. Okay, so like right there, over here. I'm going to add some paint back in. There, right there. You can't mess this up, right? You cannot mess this up. You can't mess this up. So if I had a heat gun, this would be a little bit faster. But I don't have a heat gun. And what I also want to show you guys is that you don't have to have fancy tools. You can have an old hairdryer and you can still make this work. I don't know if you guys can see this back here, but where I had added, I had a bald spot, and so where I added some more paint back in and then hit that with my heat source, I'm really getting some good crackling that's happening right there. I know it kind of looks like a hot mess right now. I know you guys are thinking that we're crazy, but we're not. And this is definitely one of those techniques that you have to use the dark wax or the black wax on this, because once you use the dark wax or the black wax, that's what really pulls the whole thing together and really makes it look like, instead of I'm a terrible painter and this is a hot mess, to, oh, it's supposed to look like that. Like, yeah, it's really kind of crazy cool. So trust me on this when I tell you that it's definitely one that looks 1,000 times better. I have taught paint classes before for years, and we would teach a technique like this, right? We would teach this totally rustic technique, and it was pushing everybody way outside their comfort zone. And every single time, without fail, my class attendees would say, I don't like this. I don't like it. And, as they're doing it, this is a hot mess. I will never use this technique ever. I think this is terrible. I don't know why you're teaching this. But they didn't really say, why are you teaching this? And I would assure them and say, it's okay. It will all come together at the end. You have to trust me. You just have to trust the process. And by the time that they did their dark wax or their black wax or the combo of the both, at the end, when we did the waxing portion of the class, every single one of them would be like, oh, wow, I really like this. And every single one of them would say, I did not think I would like this at all, and actually this is one of my favorites. I think I love this. And so it's the waxing that brings this portion, that brings this all together. So just trust me when I know it looks terrible. I know it does. But it will make sense once it's all waxed. So you can even, I've got like some thick paint on here that's drying, right, on my color shaper, and I can even scrape that off, and with my fingers, I can add that. I can go in my fingers and add that. Kind of smooth some of that out, smoosh it. I'm smooshing. It's like finger painting. And it's just fun, you guys. It's something different. It's something fun and a little bit crazy. And I think a little bit crazy is good sometimes. Get you out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? Try something that you wouldn't ordinarily try. Just be different. I want you guys to be able to see how much clay is in this paint, because this is, you can see that right there. That's just paint. There's nothing else. That's just paint. And it's like a little ball of colored clay right there. So that's the awesome clay factor in the Debbie's Design Diary DIY paint. It makes you be able to do cool stuff. So what I didn't show you on camera was I sanded. And I sanded not to get rid of our texture, because I didn't, because I have such great thick texture on here. I did not get rid of my texture. I sanded to get rid of any rough spots. I sanded to distress. You can kind of see right there. And I just took my orbital sander with some 220, and I took this outside and I across the whole thing and really beat it up. You'll see on the top here where I had some high spots where the veneer was kind of a little bit higher than the other spots. It took some of the paint off. I don't care. It's fine. This is a totally distressed finish, and that's just great. Paint came off where it came off. I'm not going to worry too much about it. So I've started to wax it. I am using clear wax and a wax brush. And I just want you to see too how the color kind of wakes up when you wax it. It's kind of amazing. It's like, whoa. And so I'm just going to do some clear wax over my whole thing. And you can go in circles and go back and forth. It doesn't really matter too much. The magic is going to happen when I think I'm going to black wax it. I think that's what I'm going to do. I couldn't decide whether I was going to black wax it or dark wax it, which is a brown, and I think I'm going to black wax it. I don't know, I love black wax. So the reason I am clear waxing first is because I want to have control over that black wax to a certain extent. I want to be able to move it around and manipulate it. And by putting my layer of clear wax on first, I kind of have the ability to do that. Okay, you'll see that spot right there. That's where I put my wood putty. I'm going to see if my black wax will cover that. If it doesn't, it's okay. I'll just throw some paint over that. I don't really know what that spot is. Oh, it's probably some more wood putty. It's okay. And if it doesn't cover, it doesn't cover. It's no big deal. I will just throw some more paint over the top. So that's my clear wax. And you can kind of see how it brought out a little bit of that texture. But when I hit it with the black wax, and then we're going to go clear wax again, and I'm going to show you why, you're really going to be able to see all of that great texture. So next we're going to hit this with some black wax. So I've got my DIY black wax. I just want to show you something too. Do you see inside that can, do you see how there's some little pockets of white? That's normal, okay? That is absolutely normal for the wax to do that. You can just take a stir stick and work it all back in. Especially, it gets really hot in our studio. Not now because it's October and it's chilly. But in the summer, when it gets hot in our studio, that happens a lot, where the wax kind of separates out, and I get these little, it's almost like white wax on or clear wax on top and then black wax, and that's okay. You just take a stir stick, just mix it, and it's totally fine. That is normal. Anyway, we're going to kind of work around that. So I've got a wax brush, and I have got some black wax, and I'm going to go to town, and I'm going to apply that black wax. And I'm really working that black wax into my texture that I have. I really want to use that brush to my advantage, and I really want to work that wax in. Like you can kind of see right there, if I just brush it over the top lightly, do you see right here where I have the wax is not in the, it's not in the texture, it's not sitting down in there. So I'll take my brush and really smoosh it. Just like we smoosh the paint, we're smooshing the wax. Because I want that wax to make sure it gets all the way down in there. Okay. Whoop. Just lost my wax tin. So even right now, you still might be thinking, this is still a hot mess, and I still don't understand what she was talking about, and that's okay. Because it's the next step, for me anyway, that I feel like is the magic, and what really makes this super cool. So I am, at this point, I am going to take my lint-free cloth and wipe it back just a little bit. You see my wax that I'm just taking off. Okay. So it still looks like a hot mess, right? I know. I know it still looks like a hot mess. However, I'm going to take a clean cloth, a new clean cloth. I'm just folding my cloth. I fold it in thirds. I like to fold mine in thirds again. That's just what I like to do. I'm going to take some more of my clear wax. This is my DIY clear wax. And now, I feel like this is when the magic happens, okay? So can you see can you see the difference? I want you to be able to see the difference. Like this right here versus this over here. This still has a lot of black wax. It's just sitting up on my surface, when I take that clear wax and I remove a lot of that dark wax, I get this. I get this great texture that pops out. And that is what I love. So I'm going to keep going. Yeah, see right there? Right in here, I get all that awesome texture. So what that does is when I smushed all that black wax down into that texture, and I go over it with that clear, and it takes off that clear that's just kind of floating on top, and it leaves it all down in there, and I get all of that amazing texture to my piece. It really pops that out. So it does take a little bit of extra work on the back end here, on this waxing end. It takes a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of extra product because you're using a little bit of extra wax. But I really do think that there's a huge difference. And to me, this is how the black wax and the dark wax, for that matter. This is how these dark colored waxes, this is how they shine. This is, for me, I feel like this is what they were meant to do. They were meant to create this aged patina kind of look and accentuate all of this yummy goodness that we have happening here. So like, for instance, let's see if I can get you back here. Can you guys see, you see all this right here? These are the crackles. These are crackles that we got when we hit our paint with a hairdryer. See all these crackles right here? See how they really pop out because that black wax is down in that crackle? Yeah, that's what I love. That's what I love. So I know that there are those of you who are probably still thinking that this is the ugliest thing that they've ever seen and that I've lost my mind. But if you enjoy some really good texture, this is a great way to do that. It's a great way to hide imperfections. It is great for a bumpy, uneven surface. Just great for something different to try. And I didn't use any additional products. I didn't use texture medium. I didn't use a crackle medium. I used all just my DIY paint and my DIY waxes. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and keep going and then be able to finish out the base of this piece. And that's it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that this was helpful, a little bit helpful. I hope that maybe you learned something new or a new way to use the DIY paint or a new way to use DIY waxes, or even just to employ a method like this with whatever paint you use. I have done this with other brands of paint. And so it's just a good technique to have in your tool belt, so that you can try something fun and different. So that's it. Thanks again. We are the Pickled Pear. We are your Debbie's Design Diary DIY retailers here in Central Indiana. And you can find us at the Logan Village Mall in Noblesville. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.